You are listening to the number one real estate podcast in the world, where we talk with real estate professionals about their wins, losses, lessons, and stories to help you win in your local market. Today, my name's Cody from Sheridan Street. I'm actually joined side by side with Vikram Deol.
What's up, buddy?
Of the Real Estate Sales Academy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm actually really pumped. You're in Medellin.
Yeah.
We got I got a longtime friend on today that we get to jam with, and this guy's if you want to talk about a beast in the real estate space, definitely a beast. But why are you in Medellin? Dude, first off, congratulations on looking super fucking fit.
Thanks,
you were down, what, 30 pounds, 20 pounds since
probably
last time I saw you?
Probably 30 pounds now. Yeah, it was 30 pounds.
You know me, I'm big on energy. Why don't you share a couple of things that you've done to lose 30 pounds? Because I know that's not an easy feat, especially with the travel schedule you've had.
Yeah, the travel schedule has been crazy. I've been doing 75 hard over since we started on January 5th. And, 2 workouts a day, 1 indoor, 1 outdoor, went pretty much all keto carnivore diet, like really trying to watch my diet, which is like giving me a crazy amount of energy. Yep. I've read now, like I'm on my 6th book.
That's crazy.
Like, so I know they tell you to read, 10 pages a day, but when I get into a book and I start cracking it, and right now I just picked up Dream Big.
Okay.
Amazing book if anyone's looking for a really good book. But yeah, no, it's been something that I know that I've neglected, the health side of things, for the business, but it's been something that I've really been focused on over the last 90 days. And it's been, here we are today.
And what's so crazy is because we've lived together now on and off for the last 6 months, which is really weird because I haven't lived with anybody for 14 years, other than dating people that stay over for an extended period of time. And today I saw you just laying down on the couch and I was like, wow, look at that. You dropped 30 pounds, your mind clears up, your body clears up, you're more energetic, and you just find more time to take care of yourself. So anyways, I'm really proud of you, man. I'm really proud of you, super proud of you. But without further ado, I think I want to introduce our guest today because I've known Steve since I got into coaching with Tom Ferry. And when I met Sharon, I met Steve at the same time. And Steve's got quite the journey. He's been with Tom Ferry. He was a Tom Ferry coach for almost a decade plus. And he didn't coach your brand new agents. He didn't coach the agents that were like, oh, I just want to do 5 deals a year. He coached the team leaders that were doing 100 plus, 200 plus, 50 million plus, 100 million plus in volume a year. And I think Steve's, whenever I think of Steve, I think of strategy, and I think of automations, and I think of this is the guy that I wish I could have in my team to just create massive amounts of infrastructure. And so he's been partners with Sharon in many joint ventures. He joined Real Brokers recently, and he's just got a shitload of knowledge. And so, Steve, welcome to the RE Agent Podcast, the
number one podcast in the world.
What's up, brother?
I had a whole bunch of things that I wanted to talk about today, but once Cody said he lost 30 pounds and he's on 75-day hard, I'm okay if you just give me that roadmap, and I'll come back to the podcast once I can compete with that.
Yeah.
It's been a whirlwind, man, but we're here, and the goal more than anything is to provide a massive amount of value back to the real estate community. And I was pumped when you agreed to do this because we haven't actually had an opportunity to I've known you from afar, and I spent so much time with Sharon, so I've had the opportunity, and he speaks so highly of you. So I want to start kind of with the beginning. How did you get into real estate coaching, into the real estate business? Maybe give everyone a kind of a high level overview. I know that, Vic kind of mentioned some things, but can you give us a kind of a high level overview on kind of how you got here today?
Yeah. I can actually take all this back to one single conversation, and I won't name her by name, but I had a client when I worked at Clear Channel Radio, and she owned a child talent agency. So you would sign your kid up for $2,500. She would develop the kid, and then they would send these kids off to Nickelodeon, Disney to do acting, auditions, right? And so she called into the radio station one day and said, hey, MTV's coming to the market. We need to run a whole bunch of ads. So I knew nothing about the talent agency whatsoever. And I said, okay, it's going to cost $10K. We can get you so many spots. Give me a tracked phone number. Do you have any copy that you want to use? And she said, no, you write the copy. And I said, okay, that's kind of weird. So I wrote the copy, Campaign did pretty well. I got on the phone with her and I said, how did the campaign do? She goes, it did okay. And I said, okay, what can we do better? And she goes, well, you can get me more phone calls. And I said, okay, what do you mean more phone calls? She goes, if you can get me a phone call for $118, I have an unlimited budget that I can spend with you. And, I was 24 years old at the time. I had no idea what she was talking about. And I said, okay, well, when you say unlimited budget, she goes, well, let me just explain the math to you. If you get me a phone call that costs me $118, I know that I have to have 6 of those conversations to get somebody to commit to us as their agency leader. That fee is $2,500 plus a monthly retainer. And I know that and I don't remember this number, but she said out of X amount of people we have on retainer, I get X amount of them signed every single quarter, and I get this fee for that, and I make, an 8X ROI on that. So at the end of the day, the only thing that I need from you is I need you to use this phone number and get me calls for $118 or less per phone call. And I remember going back to my manager at Clear Channel, explain this to her, and she goes, well, yeah, this is how advertising works. And I had always been selling advertising like, this is how much it costs to advertise on Kiss FM. This is what we do. This is our reach. And, I wouldn't say that I necessarily struggled, but I wasn't the number one agent or the number one sales performer. But then when she helped me understand that, like, when Vic and I have talked about this for a long time, that when growth is just math, that literally changed everything. So when we kind of exhausted our resources in the ad, I got bored with it because I sat behind a desk, I was on the phone all day, made a ton of money, but there really wasn't any fulfillment in the job. I figured, hey, what can I do that's really similar to this, that has, these components, but maybe I'm with more people, I'm not in an office all day. And so we got into real estate, right? So I took all of those things that I learned at Clear Channel. I have mad respect. I was there for a few years, and I just applied them to real estate. And one of the benefits that I got unintentionally thrown into is I never saw real estate as like a one person to one person business. I always thought like, hey, if I can go find one person to sell their home, why can't I find 10? If I can find 10, why can't I find 100? If I can find 100, why can't I get a whole bunch of people to do this for me? Now, I got into the business in 2007, right as the market fell apart. We got lucky. We got right into REO. I was really the first team in Phoenix to really build a 500 unit REO team. I got in super lucky. An agent in Vegas turned me on to it. It was just total luck. And I took action on it. I went all in, and then, we got paid for taking that risk. But fast forward a couple of years, I wanted to launch that in Southern California. So I called Tom and said, hey, I need you to give me a coach to manage a transition to Southern California. And the conversation kind of changed from me moving to California and getting a coach to make that transition to, he said, hey, you should just come over here and coach with us. And so kind of went back and forth on that conversation, talked to, Vic, Christina Benega, right? So we had that conversation back and forth, and that whole relationship really unintendedly started. And because of the way that I looked at advertising, because of what I had already done with my REO team, because how we had already structured the real estate business, the natural client that I attracted wasn't, again, the non-motivated agent, although they need help. And I have mad respect for coaches that can fix that. I'm a driver analytical. I don't know how to do that stuff, but I do tend to look at businesses and say, okay, here's what you're doing right now. And I can kind of identify, the missing links. And most importantly, I can take the systems to plug those holes, and, we can scale from there. So everything that we do, we've really just applied those principles to. And like I said, all of that goes back to that one conversation. Now, I'm sure something else would have happened, in the meantime, that would have gotten me to, become enlightened with that fact. But when somebody finally said, if you can get me $118 phone calls, I get so many consultations, so many commitments, and then so many people signed, and she did. There was a time where I got a phone call, Vic, and she called in and she goes, okay, we're going to give you an ad order for the month, and it's $145,000. And, I had about 40 clients, and my commission rate was 20%. And so I'm like, holy crap, I'm going to make this girl's going to make me, I'm going to get to $1 million a year in income. I'm 25 years old. And of course, the program director came back and said, Steve, come on, we can't run talent agency ads every single break, 24 hours a day. So I didn't get to take the order, but it was probably one of the best, most defining conversations that I've ever had. And to this day, I'm 42 now. So this was, good. I hate to say, God, 18, 20 years ago, almost, give or take. It still applies today. Nothing's changed.
So, I love how your brain works, right? Because everything's math, right? You can break down the entire business by math, right? Mm-hmm. Cody talks about this all the time. He's like, we're getting leads at X amount of dollars. We're doing this, we're doing that. Listening to Cody's all day long talking about numbers.
Mm-hmm.
why do real estate teams? I want to dive into teams with you if that's cool. Is that cool?
Yeah,
100%.
Okay, because that's your niche, that's your specialty. You've had a dozen teams. You've worked with 100 teams. Team leaders right now are just getting the snot kicked out of them, and they're not producing, and their salespeople are not producing. And Sharon says this. We're all Sharonites. What would be? We're all Sharonites. I guess we're all Sharonites. Sharon says this all the time. But the market's shifted. Right, we're in a skills-based market. We're no longer in a momentum-based market. You don't get to pick up your phone, call, and write an offer within a week with people. What do team leaders need to be focused on? What are the numbers that they need to be looking at, and how do they need to? Let's look at the numbers first, and then I think the follow-up question would be, from there we can ask. But
we're gonna go deeper into the advertising hole.
Yeah. What are the numbers that they need to be looking at right now? Because leads are just dried up for a lot of people.
Well, okay, so here's the funny thing. They're not, right? But real estate agents...
Hold on, what did you say?
Nothing's dried up. Literally nothing's dried
interesting.
up.
Interesting.
It's agents have dried up, right? So
we just heard a lot of clicks on this podcast.
Our fall off's gonna hit. So okay, I'm gonna give you an example that I think everybody can appreciate, right? If and Vic, you would appreciate this, right? Because I know you've done this in your past as well. If you guys wanted to open a dentist office right now, and you came to me, and let's say that I sold dentist franchise, which I don't even know if they exist. I'm sure they do. And I told you and Cody, like, okay, it's going to cost $250,000 to be a part of this franchise. You need to go out there and you need to go sign a 15-year lease. That's going to cost another $250,000 to build out. Plus, you need to go get all of your dental hygienists and all of your employees and the receptionist and billing and the insurance person. And all in, I think you are going to be about $1 million just to open the door. Do you guys agree or disagree with that?
Yep, 100%.
Okay, cool. Anybody who's going to go through all of the pain, the arguably, a potential divorce, like friendship sacrifices, everything that they're going to go through to make that happen, because this stuff never happens easy, right? No dentist gets all the way to that point to where their doors open and they look out the front door and they say, you know what? I think I'm going to call my brother to see if he wants to get his teeth cleaned today. Nobody ever freaking does that, ever, right? And so when real estate agents are always like, well, I only work by referral and with my sphere, that's fine. And you should take every single, dollar that you can get from that. But no other business on this entire planet operates that way. And we wonder why we have probably, arguably, the highest failure rate in the entrepreneur world, even though I would argue that, 99% of agents aren't technically entrepreneurs, which is totally okay, right? But because we always say we're always going to work with our friends, and in where I live, we're at a very high average sales price. So as an agent in my market only needs to sell a few homes a year to make a few $100,000. So they get caught in this trap of like, well, Susie and Bob and Johnny and my cousin and my parents always use me, I'll always be okay. But here's the harsh reality. The real estate agent, and this goes into the team thing in a second, the real estate agent really has no more control. And I'll give you another example. When we were running the REO team, we had at one given time 275 active listings at any given time, right? 275 signs in the yard. We had a call center. I had 6 agents. That's the only job there was on the team. 6 of the agents was to answer sign calls, show the home, and write contracts. And they converted like at 40%. And so I get a lot of calls. Hey, do you guys remember when you ran this big team and you were always on stage and talking about your call center and how you tracked and you guys were one of the original guys over at Infusionsoft? Yeah. Why don't you do that again? I'm like, because you can't do it. What do you mean you can't do it? I said, the only reason why we got 70 sign calls every single day was because the consumer had to call a real estate agent to get the price, the address, and the details of the home back then. Zillow did not take the market. Now you pull up, and they just Google it, right? They just Google the address. They don't need to call the only reason why they need to call the agent is if there's something nuance that they need to know about the home. They don't need the price. They don't need availability. They don't need any of that stuff. They just go to Zillow for that. So we as real estate agents, we as team leaders, we as entrepreneurs, however you want to classify this, they need to understand that we just don't protect what we protected 8 years ago. So Cody, you put a post up on Facebook the other day that we should stop calling, I think it was you, we should stop calling them leads and prospects and we should call them future clients. Do I remember that, right?
Yeah. I told my entire business development team from now on internally, we don't call them leads and prospects, we call them future clients.
And the reason why we should stop calling them leads, and you're exactly right, by the way, but the real reason why we should stop calling them leads is because there's no such thing as a real estate lead, because it doesn't matter. If I show you this mouse, this, what is this? A Logitech MX Master 3. And I tell Vic, like, dude, this mouse is $100. It's got all these buttons. It's going to make your productivity better. It's smooth. It's never going to fail. The battery life's amazing. And if you're on your computer all day, this will make you more money because it's the best mouse ever made. Does it matter if Vic is in the market for a mouse right now?
No.
Dude, it's $100. Like, who gives? Like, just go buy the stupid mouse, right? And I could do that conversation 1,000 times a day and probably sell 200 mice every single day. You can't do that in real estate. Right. I can't tell Vic, like, hey, my neighbor's home is for sale right now for $1.85 million. Vic, you should come move to Carlsbad. Well, Vic's like, well, I don't want to live in Carlsbad. Yeah, but it's a great deal. But I don't want to live in Carlsbad. Yeah, but it's got an ocean view. We're a block off the water. Yeah, but I don't want to live in Carlsbad, right? But we think about this as real estate agents. And then when leads come in from Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, and we get on the phone and these guys have ambiguity around what they want in real estate, what real estate agents do is they say, oh, well, that wasn't a bottom of funnel lead, so that lead source sucks, right? And then they get on Facebook and they get all chat, Reddit, and they say, don't use this company, their lead quality sucks. It's not about lead quality. Our job as real estate agents, and I'll get into the team thing in a second, is to say, hey, there's 118,000 people that live in Carlsbad. I need to put content out there that takes all of their contact info out from the universe, pulls it into my CRM, and, you know, with the deal of the week and all of that stuff. And I need to brainwash them that when they think of real estate, I am their only option. Right. That's it. That is my sole job in real estate, right? And only once I understand that that is my job and I can release the pressures of top of funnel and bottom funnel and good leads and bad leads and Google. And dude, it's just contact information. And how well do you communicate with that list? And the great ones understand that, you know, it's like an ATM machine. I think Zillow's an ATM machine. I'm not a Zillow fan. It's very well documented that I've never paid Zillow. I never will. And if you do, that's totally cool on you. But if I was Zillow, if I was smart as Spencer, I would have already taken the market by now. I would have wiped out everybody and I would own the entire thing. So props to him for not doing that yet. But you know, one day it will come. Anyway,
they got to slowly do it.
But you know what's funny is all they had to do this is win the consumer. And I don't think anybody can have the argument that Zillow did not win the consumer.
Oh, Zillow won the consumer a long time ago. That's the biggest conversation I have with team leads is like, if you use Zillow as a source, that's amazing. But like, they have to realize that Zillow has more trust than the agent does.
That's right. There was a time, and Vic may have heard the story before, but Jenny and I got these horrible pictures taken of this $20 million home in Paradise Valley years ago. And I was trying to get Bank of America as an REO client. And I had a BlackBerry Pearl at the time, and it's in my pocket. Jenny's sitting in my lap. We're getting these headshots taken in this like spiral staircase. And she can feel my BlackBerry Pearl just go, just won't stop. And she looks at me, she goes, oh my gosh, should we just get Bank of America? And I said, I think so, because I thought these were all listing assignments. And so if you look at these horrible pictures, we have this horrible smile on our face, this shit-eating grin, because we thought we got another 100 listings, right? So I just, Vic, like horrible metallic, like blue shirt, like we look like total douches, right? This is back in like 2009 or something. And so we get done with the photo shoot. I'm walking out on this patio. I see like all of Paradise Valley. We're way up on Echo Mountain. I look at my BlackBerry and it's 125 listing cancellations because Carrington sold their portfolio to another company, and that company was in litigation with Coldwell Banker. And because I was a Coldwell Banker agent at the time, I couldn't take the listings. And so, we had like 300 active. So it's not like, we got hurt by that, right? And we felt it, but I realized at that moment of like, dude, I don't have a business. I am nothing more than a servicer to a much bigger machine. And that's okay. Because if I told you guys, hey, there's an ATM machine over at Circle K on the corner, and every time you put $1 into that ATM machine, it's going to give you $7 back. How many times would you put $1 in that ATM machine?
As much as I could. I would.
You would go borrow money. That's right. Until the thing ran out of money. That's how you got to look at Zillow, right? If we can invest X amount of dollars with Zillow and they give us a 7X ROI, amazing. I would do that. But understand that that is never going to be a business. One day they are going to say, hey, this program doesn't exist anymore. We have too many agents in your market. We're pivoting. We're going to be like whatever they're going to do, right? Which is great.
I'll just drop in real quick because I was the guy that spent a lot of money on Zillow.
Yep, I remember that.
We used to own a market, the top zip code for like $500,
mm-hmm.
and then it went to $1,500 for a quarter, and then it went to $2,500 for X amount of this, and then it went to this, and went from and don't get me wrong, we made money,
Right.
but we were at $25,000 at one point, and they were going to change it on us again.
It's 25
grand a month. Yeah, 25 grand a month.
Yeah.
And they were going to change it on us again. And it was all, there's multiple plays that you have to have. And what most people don't realize is that there's a branding component, right? Because I couldn't have 100 signs in the yard, but I could be on everybody's Zillow feed, right? So like team leads don't realize that it's not just about what you get back. It's about how do you position yourself, because when you go out in a small local market like Carlsbad and you walk around and people go, I've seen you somewhere. Why have I seen you? And you say, oh, are you on Zillow ever? Yeah. Well, I sell real estate. Oh my God, you're famous. So people don't get that, but that's what essentially you were doing with your signs in the yard, and you were crushing it. But
yeah, it's really no different. Go on if I cut you off.
No. But it's not just money out, which people don't realize. Like people don't realize that there's multiple things that you can do with everything that you're doing. And when you talk about your REO business and how it's changed right over the years to what you're doing now, team leaders don't get it, in my opinion. Like team leaders don't understand, agents don't understand. And like with what Cody does, he markets the person and not any other form. It's straight up your
100%.
marketing. It's just totally different. And we went from getting 100+ leads a month, which was insane, down to 4 to 6.
I believe it.
And and like you say, you don't own the business. You are just servicing, and Zillow has made it so difficult to follow your process because you have to follow theirs, because like you said, they have the consumer's trust, and they're not going to let one team, no matter your size, you do $1 billion. They don't give a snot. They will not let you tarnish what they're building. Kind of wild.
Yeah, I mean, well, so here's the way that, we were talking earlier before the podcast around why there's so much team attrition right now and why is there turnover. And in my opinion, this is not backed up by any proven stat, but I will tell you, I've done well over 10,000 one-on-one coaching calls. 95% of them have been with team leaders. The other 5% have been with their teams. When I left Tom, I think I had, I'm only talking this, not that he has anything to do with that, but because it was only teams at that point, I had 24 teams that I coached. 21 of them were in the top 250 for sales volume. So I have a pretty good insight of like, what it looks like to build a very high growth business. And I will tell you, if there's one thing that I could abandon right now as a team leader, that would change my business forever, I would understand this concept of a level 10. And it's not the easiest concept. I'm going to give it to you right now. But it won't be easy to take in, because the first thing that you're going to want to think is like, oh, I got to fire my whole team. And that's not what I'm suggesting to do right now. But here's how I think that literally 99% of all teams are formed. You have an agent that's a performer and a producer, right? And they understand lead generation, and they understand conversion, and they understand how to get people to the table and convert. And they're just a really good all-around agent, right? Most team leaders are pretty good agents, right? Probably 85, 90% of them. You have a couple of them that are operators that never really like sold on their own, but they understand the operations of it. They build it from that, which is totally cool, right? So what happens, and you guys could agree or disagree with this, but that agent gets to 5, 6, 7, 8 transactions, right? And they're like, crap, I'm overwhelmed. Too much is going on. I'm getting phone calls. I have inspections. I've got disclosures. I've got docs. Everybody's barking at me. And then they sit down at midnight and they're like, well, I'm making $50K a month right now. And I really want to make $200K a month. And I know that for me to get from 50 to 200, well, I can't go from 7 to 20 deals on my own because I'll literally fall apart. So I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to grow a team. And so that agent says, well, how do I grow a team? So I'll go to a conference and I'll listen to all these people talk about growing teams. And I come back and I'm like, okay, I get it. All I need to do is go find 5 more of me. That's it. I just got to go find 5 more of me, and they need to do the exact same thing, because if I get 5 people to do 7 deals a month each, and we're on a 50-50 split, and I cover the cost of advertising, then I get to my 200K, and everything's good. But what they're realizing, your life is gravy, right? And Vic, you've done that, and I've done that as well. Yes or no?
I think I had a different concept when I built my team, though. But I want to hear yours, because I built my team with an assistant to first help with admin. And then after I went through 3 assistants and pulled my hair out, I then brought in a buyer's agent. So
Okay,
I didn't
cool. So
I didn't go in trying to like scale. I went in thinking, how do I build a business? Because I'd come from other businesses and I knew that, in my eyes, it was just like, I don't want to sell real estate. I want to help other people sell real estate.
100%. Okay, so you fell right into that. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
So what happens is the team leader brings on those other 5 agents, and maybe they do get to 7 deals a month. Maybe they make the money, but what happens is all the problems that the agent has, all he did or all she did was go find 5 other agents that have all those same problems. Yeah. And then all that stuff comes back to the team leader, and the team is like, I don't know, figure it out. Like, I don't have time. I'm doing my own deals, and like, I'm giving you leads. Why are you complaining? And then what happens is we have turnover because now the other agents are like, well, I came here because I wanted leverage, support, consistency, and the ability to build something great with you. But in reality, all you did was take your stressful business and duplicate it on top of me. And I don't want that. And I especially don't want that at a discount. And so then we have team turnover. But see, team leaders never say this step. They say, well, I have agents that aren't motivated. I have agents that don't want to make their calls. I have agents that won't create content. I have agents that won't door knock or they don't understand how to do it. They're just not like me. I need to find a whole bunch of people like me. And then what happens, and I've done this, they just say, hey, I'm done. I'd rather just do it myself and make all of the money and not have any of the responsibility. So what happens is they grow a team, they get stressed out, and then they destroy it. Then they're like, well, I don't want to do this on my own again. Let me go to another conference. Oh, there's a new shiny penny way to grow a team. So let me grow the team this way. Nope, that doesn't work. So I told you.
You know what's funny, Steve, is team leaders do the same thing that real estate agents. They grow and then they drop, and then they grow 100%. And then they drop. And it's just like a standard real estate agent's income. Except for this is just with people and a lot more stress.
You're exactly right. You were 100% right. So if I was in that position right now, if I'm listening to this podcast and I'm doing 4, 5, 6, 7 deals a month, I feel like I've got advertising down and I really want to grow. Your next hire, you do need to hire, right? But your next hire has nothing to do with duplication of effort. And I think that's where everybody goes first. If I could just duplicate effort right now, I could get double the result and everything would be fine. Here's how I would think of it. If you think about the client journey from a future client, I almost said lead or prospect right there, Cody. If you look at a client journey from inception all the way to commission, right? So that's an advertisement that's out there. That's a registration. That's a conversation. That's an appointment. That's showings or advertising the listing. That's negotiations. That's inspection period. That's closing. And then that's delivery, right? That's the client journey if you really break it down. If you're looking for another person on your team to come on and just manage that client journey from inception to commission, like you're going to fail. There is not a single team leader out there that can have perpetual scale with that model. It doesn't exist. And I'm telling you, invite every team leader in the country or in the world, because now you guys are worldwide on this podcast. And I can tell you all of them, nobody can do it. It is impossible, right? So what do? We look at where the biggest pain points of our business are. And Vic said this a little bit earlier. I think that, if I was a single agent right now and I wanted to grow the team, the first thing that I would get off my plate right away is all the showings. I'd get rid of all the showings right away. I would never show a home again. So I would go find an agent at whatever your market can bear, 15% commission, whatever. Now, you can't bring on a showing agent at 15% if you're doing 2 deals a month. They can't make enough money. They have to be showing 4 or 5 days a week, and they have to be working with multiple clients, or you're going to have turnover, right? Yeah. And then, so now we have no showings. I'm going on appointments. I'm converting leads. I'm running ads, or maybe I'm using Cody to build all that for me, right? And then I realized, like, wow, I really can't do, and I haven't even talked about an assistant yet. This is really important. Like, the assistant is higher, like number 6. It's not number 1. And I'll tell you why it's not number 1, in my opinion, in a moment. So I've got the showings taken care of. I'm a really good salesperson, but I can't deal with all these leads. So I'm going to go out there and call them an ISA, call it a call center, call whatever you want. Or if you hire that out, it's all good. But I'm going to get somebody to be my frontline defense for every inbound lead that comes in. And I'm only going to take over the ones that are ready to work right now, that they tell me, hey, this is a hot one. Let's get them on an appointment. Go do your gig, right? Yeah. So now I've got showings taken care of. I've got front-end lead conversion taken care of. I'm still going on appointments. I'm negotiating all the inspections and the closings and all that stuff. So my next hire is going to be a closing manager, not a transaction coordinator. I want somebody, when I come in the office and I write a contract, I want to take this contract, I want to give it to you, and I want to move on. That's the hardest hire you're going to make, by the way, because that involves a lot of trust that you need to give up, right? So now, as a real estate agent, I've got my lead conversion handled. I've got somebody like Cody managing my lead generation. Hopefully, I've got all the systems in there. I've got somebody managing my showings. I've got a closing person, handling contract to close. Now, the only other hire that I really need to hire, if I wanted to, is I need to replace myself as the one that actually goes on the appointments and gets the client signed. But assuming you don't make that hire, and assuming you have 1 to 2 ISAs, you've got 2 to 3 showing assistants, and you have a legit, my wife, Vic, you've met Jenny before, she was our closer, and she handled about 40 transactions a month, right? So one person easily could handle high volume, but that team of maybe 5 or 6 people easily could spit out 150 deals a year at a very, very high profit margin. But again, to Vic's credit earlier, most people don't look at growing a team from a leverage play. They look at it from a duplication of effort play. And when you focus on duplication of effort, I don't think that I'm born as a natural born leader. I don't know that I have like, the commanding presence of like a Tom Brady, of a Tony Robbins or anything like that I can walk in the room and just kind of collect everybody to me. I don't know that that's one of my skill sets, right? So for me to be the cheerleader and the raw person, and for me to build a team around that type of avatar, I can tell you, I will fail at that because that is not my forte, right? But if we can build a system to where it's kind of like, Cody, if you got hired at Chick-fil-A, do they have Chick-fil-A's down in Columbia?
No, not in Columbia, I don't think.
They do.
In the U.S.
Thank God.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you get Chick-fil-A,
Actually,
right?
I think they got one.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe you guys should open a Chick-fil-A. But if you got hired to like make chicken sandwiches at Chick-fil-A, you would come in and Cody would be like, okay, well, how do I make a chicken sandwich? And I would say, well, you take the bun, then the chicken goes on the bun, then the pickles go on the chicken, then the lettuce goes on the pickles, then the tomatoes go on the I don't know if this is how it's made. And then the bun goes on the lettuce. And then Cody's gonna be like, oh, awesome. But you know what? I want to put the pickles underneath the chicken. What the Chick-fil-A manager would be like, what are you talking about? That we don't do that here. Well, yeah, but it would taste better. I don't care. This is how we make chicken sandwiches. Yeah, but we should test it. No, we're not going to test it. You do it this way and you do it 10,000 times a month because that's how we promise that the consumer wins with us every single time. And if you're not building a real estate business that way, I'm telling you, forget the market. The market is this fictitious cloud that we think exists. It doesn't fucking exist. And sorry for the language, but the reason why it doesn't exist is because if there's 1,000 homes that will sell this year in Carlsbad, I don't need to sell 1,000 of them. I need to sell 40. And it doesn't matter if those 1,000 home sales shrink down to 500, a 50% drop, the world is falling. It doesn't matter. I still only need to sell 40. I can sell 40 out of 500, right? So this whole I just think it's always comedic when people get on Instagram like, I can feel the market shifting. No, you can't. You can't feel it. You can feel your actions shifting because what you believe the market is doing, but you can't feel anything. It is an emotion that you've made up in your head that doesn't exist, that you are self-validating to the public in why your revenue is dropping right now. Okay? So I know that there was like a bookend on both sides of that for the team. But
so good.
Let's be real. When you're trying to duplicate efforts, you are 100%. You're headed for doom. Last thing I'm going to say about this team thing before I'm sure you guys have other questions, but I won't use him by name because I didn't prep him for this, and he's not that type of he's not the awards guy. I think he is the number 2 team in all of Canada, if I'm not mistaken. If not, he may even be number 1. I coached him for years, and he doesn't even have a login to a CRM. This is how well his business is run. He has an ISA team of 6 ISAs. They all make a lot of money. And if you were to ask him how big's your team, he would tell you the size of the ISA team. Because that's his team, right? When I coached them, there were 6 or 7. They were all making, I'd say, 220 to about 300K a year. This was in Canada, if I didn't say that earlier. Crazy. And their job literally was to handle the entire business. And if I'm a real estate agent on this team, my only job is to come in the office, open my calendar and say, oh, these are my 4 appointments today. The agents don't prospect. They don't call their sphere. They don't do lead generation. They don't do any of that. They go on appointments and they get contracts. And the ISAs don't touch anything. They do everything up until the point that person's ready to write a contract. And then when the agent's done with the contract, they come into the office. I think there was 23 agents, if I'm not mistaken. They write a contract, they bring it into the closing team, and the agent goes back to their calendar and they say, where do I go next? And it's just this assembly line. And this business prints 1,000 deals a year, and Zillow doesn't exist up there. They don't have all these referral things. It's, a ton of advertising, a ton of branding, billboards, it's everything. It's a massive brand in their market. And everybody on the team makes an obscene amount of money. Everybody, but they only make an obscene amount of money, not because people negotiate their splits. There is no split negotiation. They make a lot of money because they know exactly how to make the chicken sandwich, and they never vary from the process. They just do it hundreds of times a year. That's it.
Let's try to unpack this a little for the team, because there's a lot there, and there's a lot there because there's a lot that is required of a team leader in order to actually build a successful business. Because me and Sharon have had this conversation multiple times about like the vast majority of real estate team leads, and you mentioned this as well. Like they sell based on charisma, and then they try to duplicate themselves, and it doesn't work, and they're not actually building a sales machine. Can you walk us through what an effective sales machine, in your opinion, looks like, in order to, like, we talk about cost per appointment, we're talking about that earlier. We're talking about being able to scale that. Like, what are some of the metrics that a team leader needs to understand in order to profitably grow a real estate business?
Yeah, this is really easy. I'll give you two perspectives on this, or two different things you should think of. Number one, nobody's going to love your business as much as a team leader does, right? And what I mean by that is you are never going to be able to go out there and hire anybody. It doesn't matter how much you pay them. Nobody will love your business as much as you do. So for us to expect that their buy-in is the same as ours, or their energy level, or their commitment level, or their grit level, or their staying up till 3:00 in the morning to get stuff done level is not up to ours, like, you can't ever expect that of anybody. You are the only person that possesses that, right? So only once you understand that can you understand what I'm going to tell you next. Everything in your business needs to be transparent and automatic. What do I mean by that? We can't ask anybody on the team to do anything manually, meaning you mentioned a call center that you guys run for your internal ISAs, right? I don't know how that runs, and maybe there's going to be some insights, but if I know what I think I know about you, you probably have this already figured out. But if you ask your ISAs at the end of the day to fill out a sheet that says how many calls you made, what were the results, and how do you feel about it, that tracking is worthless, because even if your best employee is 85% accurate, you can't do anything with those numbers. So from a metrics perspective, before you even build a model of what it's like to build a high velocity, high profit real estate team, you need to understand that before every action that everybody takes is transparent and automatic, meaning every time I make a phone call, it's logged in the CRM. Every time an answer happens, it's logged in the CRM. Every time I set an appointment, it's logged in the CRM. Every time, like every lead that comes in, it's all automatic, so that I get an email every day of everything that happens. That would be the very first thing that I would be after. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at this, you can't do this on shitty systems, right? We are talking, enterprise level CRM, things like HubSpot or Salesforce or Keep or Pipedrive starting to do that. You probably could pull it off with ActiveCampaign, but you can't do it with like the industry dinosaur tools. And I'm not going to name them all because it's going to sound like but literally every real estate tool right now, most of them will not allow you to do this. But because we need the $39 CRMs or the $15 app or the $10 this, and we try to put them all together with Zapier, we never get there. So now what we have to do is we have to go to the team and that you say, did you make your calls today? Well, I had a doctor's appointment. Okay. When in reality, we should never spend time on that. We should look at the report, and the report's like, cool, we got 114 leads today. We made 275 phone calls. 51 people answered it. We set 7 appointments, and we wrote 3 contracts. And nobody has to ask if that happened. So that's part one. Vic, go ahead.
No, I'm.
Yeah, I know I'm going quick.
You can talk faster.
Only once you can understand that is what your end goal is, can you even build a model. And so the model that I've penciled literally for the past 10 years, and I'll give it to you right now, is that in any market, from any lead source, with any advertising, with any ad budget, you should be able to convert. If you're average on the phone, you haven't gone through Vic's Academy or maybe Cody's not running your ads. If you're average on the phone and you're not a ninja, if you at least make the phone call and say, hey, my name is Steve Olson, I'm a real estate agent, would you like to buy a home today? I would never say that on the phone, but if that's the only thing that you said on the phone, you can convert 1 out of 85 leads right now, as long as you called every single one of them and you did it a very timely fashion. Eventually, one person is going to be saying, well, I can't believe you called me today. Yeah, we actually are thinking about buying a home. Who'd you say you were? What was your name? Where do you work? And then you recover and you do it, right? It only gets better from there when you have people that are actually skilled, that love the business, that understand the art of influence, right? So if I had to say, could I grow my way to profitability from ad spend right now? And again, this is a blended number. Some markets are much lower. Some markets are much higher, right? These numbers are all over the place. But could I go on Facebook and get a $4 registration, Do that 85 times, commit to calling every single one of them at least 6 times over the next 7 days, having thoughtful conversations and actually caring about the client. Can I do that and get in 4 times 82? I think that's like, call it $420. I don't know what it is. But in almost any market, a $420 investment to get a transaction is at least a 10x ROI. You guys agree or disagree?
Yeah, 100% agree.
And I'm telling you, it's not like that 1 out of 85. It's not the magic Facebook ad. It's not the magic copy. It's not the magic CRM. It's not the, the email follow-up sequence. It's just cadence and understanding that when everything becomes transparent, you'll see the holes and you'll see them really quick. You'll see, wow, I just realized that 141 leads came in, and the quickest we got to one of those, because I have a phone system that tracks this, is a day and a half. Like, I'm not going to change anything other than to cut that time in half. And then I'm going to cut that time in half, and I'm going to see if the number changes. Okay, it went up a little bit. Well, what if we cut it down to an hour? Okay, well, maybe you're not staffed to do that. So now we need to go find a staff that's their only job. When that lead comes in, phone comes up, they get on the phone, they have the conversation, they log into the CRM, and we have the data, right? I could give you all of the, and I know the math of growth. I could give you the exact formula to create $1,000, $1 billion business, but you'll never be able to get there until you understand that until something is transparent and automatic, you will never be able to pivot quick enough before your emotions cheat on you. Because when you don't have access to the data, the emotion will always, how you feel about the business will screw you long before you go find the manual data.
Yeah, true.
Like, we're way before, right? You will quit on yourself, on Google Analytics. Great, but do you understand how to look at the analytics, right? Because if you don't, how you feel and the frustration about people not making calls day in and day out, you're going to get crushed. And they are. And I don't even think it's a team leader avatar problem, Cody. I think it's because they don't know where to find the data or look at it, because a myriad of problems, right? Then they just say like, well, how does that person on my team make me feel? And when they're not hitting the number, they probably make them feel crappy. When they feel crappy, then they're like, you know what I mean? So it's like this whole systemic issue that just rolls downhill. If they just think, oh, it's a lead problem, or it's not any of that. It's that you don't have transparency in the growth of your business because you believe that your stepsister should always buy a home from you. It all boils down to that, where most people get into real estate, Cody, because of a life event that happened. They don't get in by design, by the way. They get in because, you know what, I like people and I like homes, so let me just go sell real estate. Because there was no $1 million investment, they can get in at low dollar, which is totally okay. I have no problems with this. But because they can get in with low dollars, they never really think of it or treat it like a legitimate business. So they try to find business at low dollar cost. They get a couple and they believe they can do that 100 times a year. And it just, for most people, out of 10,000, one could probably do 100 deals a year on referral. But everybody else, it's feast or famine every single month. And it's heartbreaking.
Man.
I think we're gonna have to bring you back on for a follow-up, because you unleashed a lot of information.
There's so much value that you provided on this podcast. I would love to do a part 2.
Yeah.
Because
broke down
so much that I think that real estate team leads and just the real estate industry at a whole is really really lacking. And you just artfully were able to kind of bring it together. Now we're going to bring you back on 100% to unpack some more things, because you blew my mind with a lot of different things. But if there was one thing that a real estate agent or let's talk to, because we've been mainly talking to teams. If there's one thing that a real estate team lead should do in order to make 2023 their best year yet, what is that one thing that could really move the needle for them this year?
I don't know if I don't work on singularity, right? It's really hard for me to work with one thing. So I'm not going to give you a lot, but I will give you 2. Number one, I would start to look at the business from a perspective of something in my business is already working. I just don't know what it is, right? So your first thing to figure out is to go figure out what is predictable in my business and how can I uncover that from a transparency and automatic perspective. It could be maybe you have lead generation under control, and just a couple tweaks you can do right now, you can double that, and you could probably solve most of your problems with that. So I would look at where your lead generation and conversion holes are right now. I wouldn't blame anything on the team. I would fix it internally, and I would just tell everybody this is how we do it from here on out. The second thing is and we didn't even talk about this, and I promise I won't go down any rabbit holes right now. But if you think about every single famous agent in the market, you can go to the Frederick Eklunds and the Josh Altmans and the Ryan Servants, all the $1 million listing guys, right? You can use them as an example. The one thing that they all have in common is that they have a brand. Now, the brand is defined by the emotion somebody has around your product or service. It's not your logos, it's not your colors, it's not your website, it's a feeling somebody has when they experience you as a service, right? That's not something you can just arbitrarily transfer to somebody. But if you think about how Josh, Ryan, and Frederick and all of them built their brand, it was the power of video, right? Because when we use video at a high level, like, and you guys may disagree with that, like 90% of sales gets done just because I know this Steve guy's not full of crap. He has passion what he talks about. He talks too fast. He probably stutters. He doesn't know how to do his own hair, but at least they know exactly how to experience. And we identify our tribe when we do this, right? Because there's going to be some people that are going to listen to this. I don't know if anybody will see it. I've been told I have a face for radio, and that's probably true. But when they hear this, they're either going to say, like, I resonate with what Cody says, I resonate with what Vic says, I resonate with what Steve says, or I don't. And that's okay. But when you commit to that level of a marketing, whether you're a solo agent, a team leader, or an agent on a team, when you go all in with that, you identify your tribe. And what I know you're going to find is that sales will become infinitely easier when all of that stuff has already been done before the thing. So to answer your question, if I was only to do one thing as a team leader or an agent on a team or as a solo agent in 2023, I would get over your fear of video and I would go all in on it right now. I'm not talking YouTube channel, although you could. Vic does really good with his reels on Instagram. I find, almost all of them hilarious. And I'm being truthful when I say that. But like, I know Vic's sense of humor, him and I have a very similar sense of humor. His is probably, I think, more contagious than mine is. Mine's definitely more dry. But like, I know exactly if when Vic and I see each other in person again, I know exactly how we're going to communicate because I've seen all that video. There is no easier path to scale than video. I will tell you that right now. It's not easy. It doesn't happen overnight, but like, it will beat Zillow. It will beat recruiting. It will beat everything if you go all in with video. I can promise you.
Dude, I love what you just said about why people should make video, because it lets the consumer know I have chills right now, literally, because I don't think I've ever heard anybody articulate why you should do video as well as that, because it's not about, wow, yeah, you guys, if you're not doing video, this is the one reason why. It's because your consumer will know exactly how you sound, you look, everything, because you can't hide it after you do 100 reels. If you,
That's right.
Just can't. Your people know. And when you walk in the door and you're congruent with that, you're an instant trust and rapport. It's influence 100%. At the finest. Wow. Thank you.
Steve, I just want to say thank you more than anything for joining us today. We're 100% going to get you back on the show.
Maybe 5 times.
Yeah, 5 times. Just want to say thank you more than anything for joining us today. And I want to say thank you for tuning into another episode of the RE Agent Podcast.
Real quick, Steve, where do they find you?
Yeah, where do they find you?
You can go to the steveolsonshow.com, join the email there.
Join the email. Do it. Learn from Steve. We'll see you soon.